Hi everyone, welcome back to the Sandy Trail. We are on episode 4 of season 3 of Sanditon. If you don't know me, my name is Joanna. I'm in the middle of doing reviews for episodes of season 3 of Sanditon. I did season 1 and 2, so there are playlists on my channel for those seasons, as well as the third season. I update that third season playlist on a weekly basis. So if you want to check them out, feel free to do so. Quick life update, or maybe a few, if you are interested. Since we're talking about Sanditon, the show is in England. I'm really excited. It doesn't feel real, but London had been the top 3 destination that probably number 1 on my bucket list, and I finally bought a ticket for this September. If you've been to London before, feel free to send me your recommendation, either in the comment below or you can tweet me as well. My Twitter username is the same as my YouTube channel. Only going for 4 nights, 5 days, and then I might go to Portugal. Don't know yet. So Portugal, London recommendation. I would very much appreciate it if you can, if you've been there, and you can tell me any good things to do or see in those 2 locations. Yeah, so I'm really excited. Been so busy the past week, trying to transit into my new job, and a lot of meetings, and hovering for someone on vacation, and everyone's like, I'm gonna miss you, Jojo. I have 1 more week left until my new job, and we are on episode 4, so I'm hoping we will get to the end of episode 5 before I start my new job. It's a little bit crunch time, but we can do it. So let's get started on episode 4 right now. The very first scene, Georgiana wakes up from her sleep. If you paid attention to the details of the room, there were a bunch of wine glasses, so it looked like she was hungover from a party from the night before. Then she rode off to the Parker house to meet up with Charlotte.
We're to gather shortly on the beach for champagne and games.
You seem to have done little else since London than drink champagne with Montrose and his friends.
I've been celebrating my victory.
In the last episode, after the shooting party on the way back to the Parker house, Georgiana informed Charlotte that she most likely will pursue a romantic relationship with Harry instead of going back to Otis. Charlotte is against that idea, that plan.
Georgiana, have you given yourself time to absorb the revelations of the trial?
I've no desire to dwell on the trial.
There are some things, that she found out, that she learned about during the trial. For example, that good possibility that her father sold her mom to another plantation owner, and the chances of finding her mom, and Georgiana is in that headspace where she's like, you know what, I won the trial, I have my money, I get to eat my money, what other thing, I need to worry about in regard to the trial. She's like, I got everything that I need for now and for the future. It's like Charlotte can read her mind, Charlotte can see that Georgiana is avoiding the bigger questions about her future.
I wondered if it might have made you even more determined to find your mother.
I've accepted that the search is hopeless. From now on, I shall look only to the future.
When I first watched this episode, I was really hoping that we get to see Georgiana's mom. This storyline is a great storyline for the character of Georgiana. That it's a bit of a mystery, and it was a big revelation when she found out that her mom might still be alive. And Charlotte wants the best for her friend, of course. And she's like, you can't give up on your mom. Like, you have the money, you have the support to do so, to continue to do so. It would be nice to have that chance for Georgiana to have a relationship with her mom, and it's something that she had been missing.
But what of you? Your wedding is only 2 weeks away. Do I sense you're putting off your return to Willingdon?
Georgiana's like, enough about me, like, let's talk about you, Charlotte. It's like putting the spotlight on Charlotte. Georgiana made a good point. I mean, Charlotte is engaged, right? And we at the audience watching this season, like, why do you keep putting off your wedding to Ralph? Like, what are you waiting for? If you are truly happy and in love, right? I mean, that person should be so excited, so impatient, would get married, like, as soon as possible. No, not Charlotte. She is, like, taking, like, the longest direction to a destination.
I'd like to be certain you've recovered from your ordeal.
As you see, I've entirely recovered.
And I couldn't leave before your party tomorrow.
'Tis kind of Tom and Mary to host it.
There's another party, another excuse, another good reason for Charlotte to stick around. She loved to say excuses, make up reason that she goes along just to convince herself, to convince her mind and her heart that she can stay in Sanditon, like, for a good reason, you know? It's not a selfish reason, but it's getting a little bit selfish. I mean, you have a man who loves you and is waiting for you back home, waiting to marry you. Don't torture Ralph. Even though I don't want him to be with Charlotte, but in common sense, you know, like, this is like the beginning of Charlotte torturing Ralph.
But I fear it might be a rather staid occasion. Arthur! Charlotte and I are to meet Harry and his friends on the beach. Say you will come.
Oh, I'm not sure.
What?
Arthur, he used to be jolly and, carefree guy, go with the flow, have fun, smile, laugh, be joyful, right? Ever since that big revelation and that very deep conversation between him and Harry, in the last episode, he had been not himself.
What has possessed the pair of you? Ever since the shooting party, you've both been out of sorts.
I have no idea what you mean.
Well.
So Georgiana, she's like, okay, Charlotte, like, she had that love life situation going on between Alexander and Ralph. She had no idea what's going on with Arthur just yet. Yeah, that would be a really interesting storyline to talk about later in this episode and for the rest of this season.
Whatever is ailing you both, I believe the best way to deal with your problems is to forget them.
Preferably with champagne.
She did say an interesting line though, like, you know, forget about your problem, forget them with champagne. And in real life, like, I would be against that advice. It's hard to avoid problems in your life, right? It's like a temporary solution, like going to that beach party with Harry and his friend. That would be like a temporary solution to the problem, just to get them take their minds off of, you know, whatever situation that they individually going through.
I persuade you to saddle up and join me?
God, no. Thank you. Far too early in the day for such exertions.
I've not planned to return to London after the shooting party, yet 5 days have passed, and here you are.
There's another reason why Samuel is still in Sanditon, and I think it's very obvious by now. I don't mind keeping Samuel around in Sanditon for the rest of the season. Once again, I think Samuel, the character, is a great addition to this season.
I don't wish to outstay my welcome, brother, but I'm not ready to leave just yet. I'm enjoying getting to know Leo and Augusta.
And Lady de Clermont?
I thought Samuel would blush a little bit or freak out or try to deny it, but he seemed very calm. But it's pretty cool though that Alexander picked up on that, and he kind of teased Samuel at the same time, yeah, okay, there's more to than just Leo and Augusta. Lady Susan is in the equation of why Samuel is still in Sanditon.
This might be the first friendship I've ever had with a woman. And since neither of us have the least bit of romantic interest in each other, it's refreshingly uncomplicated.
For now, he seemed to be very interested to be a good friend to Lady Susan. He seemed to not think too far ahead of his relationship with Lady Susan. He's just enjoying this new friendship with her. They did say to each other in the last episode that they have no interest in marriage and they just enjoy their single life and just go with the flow. So they seem to be on that same path in life.
Perhaps you're growing up.
I won't go that far. Did I mention Miss Lamb is hosting a party to celebrate her success in court? We're both invited.
Do we know who else will be in attendance?
Georgiana invited both of the Heybourne brothers to Georgiana next party. And this could be, another good opportunity, maybe, for Charlotte and Alexander to run into each other.
I assume Miss Haywood will be there, if that's what you're asking. I know your last conversation with her didn't go the way you hoped.
I must look to the future, Samuel.
That look on Alexander's face, yeah, that's a look of I don't want to talk about Charlotte. I'm done with Charlotte. I'm very disappointed on how that turned out. That very last scene in episode 3 of season 3. Yeah, Alexander seemed to be ready to move on and forget about Charlotte and just not dwell on the past, especially that past moment when he revealed to her that he is still in love with her. It broke his heart too. Not only Charlotte, it hurt Alexander too. After that scene at the very end of episode 3. So he's you know what? I can't do anything. She picked Ralph. She did say that. I made promise to Ralph and my parents. I'm out of here. And Alexander is a gentleman, and he will respect her and respect her decision, even though it will hurt him very much.
To which end I've invited Lady Lydia and her mother to tea.
And what of Miss Haywood? Do you intend to pretend she just doesn't exist? Or suppress your feelings?
So here comes Lydia, the chapter of Lydia and Alexander. Once he told Samuel that he invited Lydia and her mom to tea, Samuel didn't look too happy because he knows that Charlotte is the best woman for his brother Alexander, and he wants the best for his brother. After what they went through in the past, and they're trying to build up this brother relationship at the same time right now. Samuel wants the best for his brother, and he knows that he went through a lot when he lost his first wife. As a brother, you want to see your siblings happy again and to find love again.
I believe that's the motto on our family crest.
Charlotte most likely would go to Georgiana's party. I mean, she already said it in the previous scene before this one. So she is definitely going. So if Alexander does go to Georgiana's party, he would definitely run into Charlotte. But what interesting statement at the end of this scene, Alexander mentioned about how his family members suppress their feelings very easily. So to me, him and his brother and the way that they grew up, they don't openly express their feelings, and that probably plays a role in Alexander's personality of how he is reserved and a very quiet man unless you get to know him. Edward is writing a letter to Augusta and vice versa. They go back and forth. He almost got caught by her uncle as Alexander walked out with his horse for a ride. If you watch the episode, you will hear his voice over in this scene, and you can sense his determination, the aching in his heart, desperate to be with Augusta and to have that freedom to be with her. But for me, I don't believe Edward. I don't trust him at all. He can be very manipulative to anyone, anybody. Lady Denham and Edward, the next scene, Lady Denham, keeping her eyes on her nephew, especially after what happened at the shooting party, and Edward confronting Alexander about his plan to pursue after Alexander needs Augusta. Lady Denham is disappointed and embarrassed, I would say, at the same time of what her nephew did when he talked to Alexander about Augusta. Edward, of course, he tried to look innocent and act innocent in front of his aunt, trying to convince her, he hasn't break any more rules, he's been away from Augusta ever since the shooting party. And she mentioned about how Mr. Hinkins, the priest, is not helping Edward at all on the spiritual side, because Edward, he making the wrong decision and chasing after worldly desires and chasing after Augusta for a wrong reason, for her money. And Lady Denham did mention that she is not stupid. She knows her nephew really well. She can read him really well, so she knows when he is up to no good. Then the flowers came into the room for Lady Denham, and I think this is the first time we witnessed a man giving flowers to Lady Denham, and it's obvious those flowers are from Mr. Price. And Lady Denham's like, what? She didn't expect it. Once again, she is a very independent woman. She can take care of herself really well. And flowers from a man, I'm pretty sure it's been a long time since a man admires her and give her flowers. So when Mr. Price sent flowers to her, it definitely made her day, touched her heart, and she laughed with joy. And it's so funny how there's a contrast in the scene. She is enjoying the bouquet from Mr. Price in front of Edward that is suffering an obstacle in his relationship with Augusta. I thought that was a bit funny, and I didn't think of this until now. I don't know if that makes sense with you. From Edward to Augusta, she was happy that Edward left her another letter and another orchard. So it is an orchard. It's a sign of hope for her that Edward is not giving up on her, and that she feels like she is going crazy, but she is not crazy, because she's like, okay, even though the circumstance is really bad right now, this guy is still wanting to be with me, so she felt good about it. But then again, the circumstance that they are in right now is bigger than the happiness, if that makes sense. It's a big obstacle to overcome, with her uncle disapproving them to be together.
What's that?
Just a flower?
We don't grow orchids in our greenhouse. But I assume Lady Denham does?
The discipline scene between Alexander and Augusta, you can see the maturity of Augusta in this scene. she's not a little girl anymore, but at the same time, she is in this relationship with a man that is not the best man for her, and Alexander knows that, and he is trying to show that to her and convince her to not go after Edward.
It is possible.
I made it perfectly clear that Sir Edward was not to call on you. But true to form, he's resorted to evasion and deceit.
You left him no choice.
Tell me you have not been alone with him.
This is like the closest moment we might get between Alexander and Augusta in a like father-daughter form, if that makes sense. She is his niece, but she doesn't have her parents anymore. So at the same time, there's that mix of uncle, father, figure in her life. So this is not an uncle moment. This is like a father moment. A father figure that loves her so dearly and wants to protect her at all costs, and he knows better than she does. Even though she is growing up, there's still some maturity that she needs to work on for the better, especially when dating men and picking the right man to marry down the road in her future. He is very parenting in this scene, if that makes sense.
Why is that any of your concern? I am not your daughter.
You'll have no further contact with that man from now on. You are never to leave the house without a chaperone.
And then there's that, rebellion, that teenager attitude. We all been there. That definitely showed up right when she said, "You're not my father. I'm not your daughter." So that might, struck his heart right there and then. She is right though, but he is like the only parent, role model, uncle, closest relative that she has left that can watch over her. And that's a huge responsibility. Not only he has Leonora to take care of, who is not his biological daughter, and now he had, also had to take care of Augusta at the same time. He has so much stuff on his plate ever since he took over the house and get married, and Leonora's situation, and then Augusta's parents died. He went through a lot. And it would be nice if Augusta realized, that she should be more grateful and maybe be a little bit more understanding of where Alexander is coming from. There's a huge conflict between Alexander and Augusta, and it's definitely a bigger conflict than in season 2, when Alexander tried to teach her, how to be a lady and how to be prepared for his society. They had that conflict where he wasn't ready for her to go to these society events and be introduced to the men in public. And he changed on that. He's like, okay, it's time for you to grow up. It's time for you to go out there into the world. And then, another conflict came along in season 3, like, okay, I let you grow up, but you're making a bad decision on the man that you want to be with. In any parenting, there's like different levels, as your kids grow up and deal with different situations in every age that they're at. Also, the door slam, that's like the typical teenager attitude. I've done that. I think we all did. And then he raised his voice, like yelling at her, and I'm like, that's like a total father mode that he was in. I kind of like it, this scene happened, because it was like so, he was just in the parent mode, and I thought it was fun to see him on that fatherly side, to Leonora and Augusta. But we got this scene with him and Augusta, and I'm like, okay, like he had that discipline down when it comes to this situation with Augusta. And Samuel seemed to be that, I don't think he would yell or be tough like Alexander as a parent. So that's why he looked at him, he was like, damn, like, he probably, like, didn't expect his brother to raise his voice like that and discipline Augusta right there and then. And the next scene is Mary and Tom. This is the continuation of their discussion in the carriage ride on the way home after the shooting party in the last episode. This seemed to be a little bit better conversation, but there are still some conflict in their relationship in regard to the hotel location. Mary, she had this agenda. She laid out plans to help the old town, not to destroy it. She truly cared for the people in the old town. She had a great house. She had a beautiful family. She has enough financial support for her family. Like they live like a really good life, like an upper middle class, right? And she very humble about it, and she knows how tough life can be. So she helped this community of Old Town, like, wherever she can. And this, like, now this made me think of, okay, you know how she mentioned how she used to be Mary Harrison? I think that was her maiden name, if I remember right. I was wondering if she had a less poor life before she married Tom. You know what I mean? Like when she married Tom, like she had a better chance to live a better life because of Tom's status and reputation and money, wealth. So maybe she had that life before marriage where, she didn't have the best lifestyle, didn't have much money than she had now because of her marriage with Tom. So maybe she had that understanding, what it's like to live with a lifestyle like living in Old Town. So that's why she here for the people. It seems like she understands them and know what they need the most. And Tom, he doesn't really show much interest in that. All he hears about the profits, the money, making more money for himself and his family while harming innocent people that didn't do anything, against Tom. So this is a bigger issue, than they expected it, just because Mary and Tom had different opinions and different perspectives on this hotel. And Tom made a very brutal statement, I would say, at the end of the scene. He's like, let me take care of the business side of this hotel. You just worry about what happens inside the house, and don't worry about anything outside of the house. And that's like a label, women back in those days, they were expected to stay home and give birth to many babies and keep the house clean, and that's it. Anything that happened outside the house, women didn't really know much or didn't have many opportunities to expand their horizon outside of their homes. And that can play a role in today's society, right? And it's interesting how in today's society, the roles, in some cases, are reversed. The dads, stay at home and the moms go to work. I think there should be equality. I think nowadays, I think both the woman and the man, they should have equality of working and maintaining the house. I believe that, men should still be handymen around the house. Women should still cook at home, but they should have that balance of doing their passion and go to work if they want to, or just do something that they love to do outside of home. But I'm sure that it affected her in a negative way, and by the look of it, it looked like she picked up that plan paper, and she's like, no, I am not giving up. I am not giving up on these people. And that's why I think she would be like a really great mayor. Yeah, mayor, or even mayor wife. Back in those days, women didn't really hold many positions, but she would have been a great mayor, I would say, for Sanditon. Edward continuing the religion aspect of his detention program. Miss Hankins, she is hiding those letters within like in her book, or just keeping those letters hidden from her brother. She is falling for this doctor, and the brother doesn't want her to fall in love with the doctor, but for now he complimented his sister, looked very happy, and he thought that it's the joy of the Lord in her, but we know it's actually the happiness that she is feeling from reading those letters and having that long-distance relationship with the doctor, a secret long-distance relationship with the doctor. I was thinking though, the party that they are having right now in this scene is very fancy, and I'm like, I don't see those in the daytime, or even like rarely. But this is the party of Georgiana invited, Harry and his friends, and we will get to see Arthur and Charlotte be at the party. Very fancy party to have at the beach, and of course, Georgiana, she had money, and she spent money, and she hung out with people that have money.
They're his friends from Bath, rather a fashionable crowd. They seem highly taken with Georgiana.
Or with her fortune.
How about a little sport? Shall we see who can eat the largest number of macaroons in less than a minute?
Harry, he seemed to know how to have fun, right? And he seemed to not feel bothered by his conversation with Arthur in the last episode. She seemed to enjoy the party, just live in the moment. And we see Arthur and Charlotte on the side, a little bit far away from the crowd of the party. It seemed to be not their taste. I think Arthur would have enjoyed the party if that conversation with Harry did not happen. But for Charlotte, I feel like it's not really her personality. I felt like a party for her is like a ball. She loved dancing, but this is more of a getting drunk party type. And I don't think that suits Charlotte very well.
Perhaps you haven't heard, but Georgiana's been leading a sugar boycott.
Ooh, okay. Charlotte, she's a very nice friend that was very considerate and respectful of her to remember that and to remind Georgiana that. But Harry and the rest of the party goers, they're like, okay. It kind of turned the mood down.
I will put £2 on Arthur.
I think I'll decline. Thank you.
When she made a bet on Arthur to win that party game, to me it's like she rejecting her past, her identity of who she is. She might felt embarrassed of what Charlotte said in front of everyone, and she just didn't want to destroy the fun that she is having at the party. It's just she really didn't care about the sugar boycott anymore. She didn't want to let her reputation go down after that mention of the sugar boycott. It's like she is being influenced by this group of people that is not really her type, even though she had money and had the high status and wealth, she used to be pretty humble and hang out with the group of people that doesn't do these kind of parties, more laid back, Arthur and Charlotte. They are a whole different group of friends than Harry friends, you know what I mean? So it kind of she felt pressure and influenced by them at the party to the point, she didn't want to be shown embarrassment when Charlotte mentioned about the sugar boycott. Harry, he looked very disappointed when Arthur didn't want to participate in the game. Arthur, she's short as it is, he's like, nope, and we know why, and Harry knows why. It's a huge turn down, and Georgiana, you can see, like, she was very disappointed in both of her friends, Charlotte and Arthur, once again.
Not afraid to draw attention to themselves. It is only a bit of fun, Charlotte. You need more champagne.
So that's why, you know, she felt more encouraged to hang out with these friends of Harry's, because they don't really know her history, like they don't really know her that much. They just like getting to know her a bit more, and they know and love to have fun.
Arthur, I must ask, have you been avoiding me since the shooting party?
He can pick up on it. He can pick up on the mood that Arthur is throwing at him at the party. So he's like, you know what? Let me find out what's going on with Arthur.
I thought you were avoiding me. You seemed quite preoccupied with your friends.
No, they're just a distraction.
I think that was a confirmation from Harry that he likes Arthur, when he mentioned about how he would rather spend time with Arthur than those people at the party.
I would far sooner have your company than theirs.
There you are, Harry. We've barely seen you these past few days.
Not since the bath set arrived.
This might be a long analysis. So Lady Monroe's walking to the party with Lydia, right? Arthur and Harry just had that another conversation just now between the two, and in a way they confirmed the feeling for one another, but they haven't like had like a deep, further, longer conversation to talk about the feelings and what to do next. Arthur, he doesn't know if Harry's mom knows about, you know, Harry's preference in men, you know what I mean?
It's arrived.
Or could it be that you've been spending all your time in Miss Lamb's company? You two are becoming quite inseparable.
So when Lady Monroe's asked Harry in the scene, like, oh, where have you been? Have you been, you know, spending a lot of time with Georgiana? The camera moved to Arthur's face, and to me, I read it as like, you know, not jealousy, but I think Arthur began to realize that this might become a problem because Lady Monroe is rooting for Harry and Georgiana to be together, right? But Harry doesn't really want to be with Georgiana, and the Arthur knows the arrangement that was agreed between Georgiana and Harry, and he knows that they don't really love each other like that, you know? So this is the beginning of that triangle conflict, and I think Arthur realized that initially in the scene. So, you know, Mama Bear knows everything. You know, let him pick up on things before you say it out loud.
Miss Hayward, I trust you are well.
Very well, thank you, Lady Lydia.
We're much looking forward to your party, Miss Lamb.
Lydia, she is a nice woman, but she doesn't really know the whole story about Charlotte and Alexander, so I can be mean to her, you know, even though we don't want her to be with Alexander, we want Charlotte to be with Alexander. Charlotte trying to stay mutual, you know, with Lydia, just out of respect, and Charlotte knows that, you know, Lydia doesn't know what she is doing to Charlotte, you know what I mean? Like, Charlotte feels jealous, you know, about this Lydia-Alexander thing, but Charlotte cannot blame her because she doesn't know the whole story.
Can I assume the brothers Colburn will be there?
I've invited them both.
Oh!
I must thank you for your advice, Miss Hayward.
Lady Monroe's, you know, diving her nose in the business of the Heybourne brothers once again. Of course, she's like matchmaking, you know, Lydia and Alexander in a way, while Lady Susan and Sam were matchmaking Alexander and Charlotte. Georgiana, she knows that Charlotte had a really great romance with Alexander in season 2, and Georgiana rooting for Alexander, not Ralph. And she knows that Charlotte is trying hard to maintain her composure and try not to get jealous when, you know, Lydia is around, or when Lydia is talking to Alexander in public in front of her eyes. Georgiana, it's a good friend. Like, she knows what's best for Charlotte, but at the same time, she respects Charlotte on her decision, even though she is making the worst mistake of her life in marrying Ralph.
Once I kept the conversation to dogs and horses, I found Mr. Colburn to be pleasing company indeed.
I'm glad.
And the feeling was plainly mutual, since we've received an invitation to Heybourne Park tomorrow.
Charlotte is calculating in her mind, like, oh no, I'm gonna run into Alexander at Georgiana party, like, God be kidding me. But then Lydia thanks Charlotte for her help in advising Lydia, like, what to talk about with Alexander. That was very nice of Charlotte to do that. She didn't have to. She could have lied or not said anything. But that showed that she is a grown-up, you know, she is an adult, even though, you know, what happened between her and Alexander, like, the way it ended was really bad. She overcame that and just didn't, you know, let it get in her way of helping Lydia to get Alexander attention. And Lydia thanked her for her help, like, out of kindness and respect for her. So, you know, that was a nice mutual thing, you know, when Lydia thanked Charlotte for her help. Of course, Charlotte, you know, she's jealous, and she, you know, she's not gonna show that completely.
Apparently no one has caught his eye since the death of his wife. Not until now, that is. Oh, you cannot blame me for being excited. There's every chance I may soon see both my children settled.
That is not true. Charlotte caught Alexander's eyes from the first moment they met in season 2. So Lady Monroe, she had no idea. It's funny though at the same time how Lady Monroe's like so confident that her plans will be succeeded, like, you know, she would get what she want. She would get Lydia with Alexander and Georgiana with Harry, and she can be like a happy mom in her queen chair after both of her children get married. And the most important reason behind all of that is the money. That's another thing why Lady Monroe is very quick and very pushy at the same time to get both of her kids married very soon.
I fear the more draconian my brother is, the more appealing Sir Edward will seem.
Well, forbidden fruit is always the most tempting. And when you were young, it is only natural that you would mutiny against your parents.
So to me, what Samuel said about his brother is that he really hears his brother yell like that to anyone, but he doesn't know Edward that much. Edward has more crime than Alexander does. So Alexander is still the better man, still has the better quality in the man than Edward does. And I thought that was an interesting metaphor, because I was just thinking about that Bible verse that Miss Hankin gave to Edward in the church. That was the last episode, right? Yeah, she was like, you know, you would know a person by the fruit that they bear. And Lady Susan mentioned forbidden fruit, and I'm like, that like represent Edward. And she said, you know, the forbidden fruit is tempting, and I'm like, that's how Augusta sees him as, you know, like the forbidden fruit is Edward, and very tempting, you know. He persuades her, like he tempts her to to draw him in, you know, close to herself, Augusta.
I can't believe you were ever wayward, my lady.
Oh, I was wildly ungovernable. I used to steal my father's carriage and drive it at death-defying speed. I've never known a thrill like it.
I love this moment, even though the conversation is not the greatest topic. But it's nice to hear also what it was like in Lady Susan's childhood when she was growing up. I can totally see the independence in her, just doing whatever she wants to do, what she wanted to do when she was growing up.
I was quite incorrigible myself. Some may argue I still am.
I find excitement these days in more tranquil activities, like matchmaking.
At this point, it's like it's becoming more similar between these two, you know, the same interests, like the same mindset, the same perspectives in life. They are totally compatible with one another, and they seem to get along really well with each other, like right off the bat. And just because he first went up to her after that recital moment earlier in the season, if he didn't go up to her after the recital, I don't think we would have witnessed this friendship that we are witnessing right now in this scene. He made the first move, you know, like he was the one that initiate that first conversation with Lady Susan, and I think that's a beautiful thing to see. I love when the guy chases after the lady.
I fear we may have to admit defeat. Now my brother has declared his intention to court Lady Lydia.
Oh, and Miss Hayward is due to return home to her betrothed.
Okay, you guys are busy with Charlotte and Alexander trying to pair them up, but at the same time, like, you kind of like pairing yourself up with each other without even noticing, you know what I mean? Like, even though they're rooting for Charlotte and Alexander, they should, you know, realize, like, hey, you and me, Lady Susan and Samuel, we can be helpful too.
Question what reason I have to stay in Sanditon now. Perhaps it's time I looked for diversion elsewhere.
Lady Susan is looking for a new adventure somewhere else, but Samuel is not. He wants to stay in Sanditon. He wants Lady Susan to stay in Sanditon. He's not ready to let her go just yet.
I fear they are not true friends. They know how to enjoy themselves, whereas you seem to have forgotten. It is Mr. Colburn, isn't it?
Charlotte has a good reason, a good intention of, like, you know, telling Georgiana, just watch out for these people, like, they don't know you well as much as me and Arthur does. But at the same time, Charlotte is like putting all the spotlight on Georgiana and all of Georgiana's problems, you know, on her. And Georgiana's like, wait a minute, you know, there's something going on with you too. And she reminded Charlotte in a very nice and comforting tone, like, you can tell me anything.
You know you can tell me anything.
After the shooting party, he found me out on a walk.
And I'm a little bit surprised, though, that it took, you know, this amount of time for Charlotte to tell Georgiana. I thought, you know, they would tell each other, like, within a day, you know, of, like, what's going on in their personal lives.
He told me he was in love with me. And to my eternal shame, we kissed.
Georgiana was super happy to hear that. She's like, yes, she was rooting for Alexander, and when Ralph and Charlotte got engaged, she wasn't too happy. Remember that look on her face at the very end of season 2? She's like, wait, Ralph? You're engaged to Ralph? She was not happy. And she put up with it, you know? She wanted to be happy for Charlotte and support her. and be happy for her pending marriage to Ralph. But she started to like let it out a bit more in this season, like, hey, maybe, you know, you should not be with Ralph.
You need feel no shame.
I'm to be married, Georgiana.
But if you share his feelings...
I've made a commitment to Ralph. To my family. I cannot break it.
That excuse is getting so old on me, and it's getting really annoying. Like, girl, you don't marry a guy just to make your parents happy. I know it's a different world back then, but, like, no, that's a stupid excuse. Georgiana, like, you're not married yet, okay? Like, it's better to realize now than after the fact, right? And Georgiana, she seemed to have that mindset of, like, what happened, you know, happened. Like, you go, girl. Like, he told you and you got his, like, that, you know, that's how it should have happened since the beginning. She definitely team Alexander. Charlotte, she feel bad for, you know, how she hit a different guy than Ralph. I can understand that, you know, that that principle, like, don't cheat on your fiance, like, don't cheat on your partner, your husband or wife. But hey, you know what? In this show, within this, you know, this show world, you know, it's better to cheat before the wedding. Just saying. But, you know, you don't want to divorce. That's even worse.
You were right. I have been putting off my return to Wellington. How can I face Ralph?
I forgot about this. So she postponed her trip to go back home to Wellington because she hits Alexander. She didn't want to face Ralph. Like, that's a lot of pressure for her. I get that. But even, like, before the shooting party and before the hit with Alexander, I always, you know, had that belief, you know, like, she stayed in Sanditon also because of Alexander. She made that excuse of sticking around in Sanditon, bye-bye to Ralph, just because of Georgiana's situation. Like, that's a good reason, but as the time goes on, you know, like, she delays her wedding, and Georgiana, like, questioned it, like, you're not in a hurry to, you know, to marry Ralph. And also, like, Charlotte could have, like, go back home after the birthday party, marry Ralph, and then come back to Sanditon or meet Georgiana in London.
How can I tell him?
It became more obvious that there was more to the story, more to the reason of why Charlotte stayed in Sanditon way longer than she expected. She was only supposed to be there for the birthday party, nothing more, but a lot of things happened. Number one, pure shock for Charlotte. Number two, Ralph, like, what is he doing waiting outside the door? Like, he should have rang the bell before Charlotte caught him.
Ralph!
Charlotte, I read that Miss Lamb's trial is happily concluded, so I've come to bring you home.
Third, he read the newspaper. He didn't really have to go all the way to Sanditon to pick up Charlotte, right? That shows how much he loves her and just want to be sure that she is okay and that he can bring her back home safe and sound for the wedding in Wellington. Fourth, to me, that smile, that happiness from Charlotte, right at the last second of this scene, it sounds like it's kind of like a fake happiness. You know, it wasn't like 100% happiness. It was like mixed emotion from her. Like, yay, but no. She is not ready to go home yet because she doesn't want to tell Ralph what happened between her and Alexander. And also, the fact that she needs time to move on from her feeling, because the way that the conversation happened between Alexander and Charlotte is reignited her feelings and the memories that she had with him in season 2, and now that is in season 3, episode 3, and she's like, how am I gonna, move on from Alexander and forget all of these things that happened between the two of us, and then the importance of telling Ralph what happened, like she cannot hide, from him, forever, like she have to be honest with Ralph, he deserved the truth. She doesn't deserve to find out, from another person, like she need to tell him face to face, and that is hard to do. Charlotte love life. He's a mess at the moment. Anyway, we will stop it here and pick up the next 12-15 minutes of this episode. As usual, there are 4 parts for episode 4. I keep it the same for every episode, 4 parts review. I hope you enjoyed this one. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.